there. My objection to this picture was that this picture is not an engaging picture. It's a very, you might say it's not aesthetically or not beautifully presented. So what we could have done, we could have played with the colors, right? And the idea that this picture is sidelined, it could have placed in the center, right? These are all the things, these are all those factors that we think upon when we are designing a slide. From my point of view, this picture should have been placed in the center. The placement could have been played with. The colors could have been played with. Font size and style could have been played with. So these are all those factors that could have made this slide more presentable and more attractive, right? And a more engaging slide rather than a very bleak presentation, right? Okay, now apart from all those do's and don'ts that we talked about, I'm also going to talk about 3 more don'ts for PowerPoint presentation. And one of them is faulty parallelism. Any idea what is faulty parallelism? Text me yes or no. Ever heard of the word parallelism? Okay, before moving on to this question, I would like all of you to type in the chat box, what's wrong with this picture? Irregular arrangement. Very good. Rule number 43. Excellently put into words. It is an irregular arrangement. And this is the same kind of feeling that we get when people do not arrange their words in a regular form or in a balanced form on the slides. And this mistake is usually conducted or committed when we are writing or when we are showing our PowerPoint slides. This doesn't happen when we are talking. It can happen sometimes when we are speaking also, but mostly it occurs when people are writing. So what is wrong with this picture basically? Again, the placement is wrong. The mistake lies with the parallelism of the picture. Parallelism, you might say placement of the box. They could have placed in an ordered version, right? So that we could have a clearer ordered version of the books, you might say. But this is not that's visible over here because one of the book is shown to be in this manner, right? The page is started. And then we have horizontal and vertical placement, mixture of horizontal and vertical placement. Well, so this is what we're going to learn today. When we are writing on a document, and when we are writing on the PowerPoint slides, when we are making our bullet points on the PowerPoint slides, we should be avoiding faulty parallelism writing style. Faulty parallelism writing style, faulty of course means incorrect. What is meant by parallelism? Parallelism in writing means parts of sentences with same grammatical form. Parts of sentences over here means you can take the phrases, you can take the clauses, and parts of sentences are made with the help of verbs, noun, objects, you all have an idea. Parts of speech or parts of sentences, right? Same grammatical form. For example, if you're using a chain of verbs, your sentence should have all verbs in it. If you're using a chain of nouns, your all sentences or your all bullets point should be either starting or should be either ending in nouns or verbs or whatever you have put it down in, right? I'll give you an example. Engineers has a passion for reading and to invent new objects. What's wrong with this sentence? Now this sentence has a faulty parallelism in it. Can you identify where the faulty parallelism is lying? Parallelism, as we've just discussed, is ordering the sentences or making the sentences in order, bringing more clarity in our thought, bringing more clarity in our description of the words. Yes. Notice this. Yes, very good, very good. Yes, excellent. Now notice this. Engineers has a passion for reading. Here we have used 2 verbs in this sentence, reading and invent. But the way we have used these 2 verbs is incorrect. Here we have used faulty parallelism while writing. Now, reading over here is ending with a gerund, that is ing. And here we have used the verb, but we haven't used ing. So this sentence could have been rewritten as, Engineers has a passion for reading and inventing new objects. Simple, right? If you want to use gerund, then continue with the gerund, ending ing over here and ending in ing also over here, right? Or if you want to use the word to with it, that is infinitive, what you could have done, engineers like to read and to invent new objects, right? We can also rephrase this sentence like this. But when I've rephrased it, I have used to read and to invent. I hope I would have made myself clearer. Yes. Okay, now, after going through this, I have devised an activity for all of you. Get ready. We're going to just exercise this information of faulty parallelism on these examples. Okay, let's discuss the answers one by one. The dictionary can be used to find these meanings, pronunciations, spellings, and now this was all making a set. Meanings, pronunciations, spellings, and looking up irregular verbs. Now this looking up seems to be odd one out, because this looking up word is bringing some kind of incorrect structural sentence, a structure of the sentence in this list. We can easily do with this dictionary can be used to find meanings, pronunciations, spellings, and irregular verbs. No use to add, or we should not be adding looking up in the sentence. It was very simple, but most of you were not able to give this answer. Most of you said that look up is correct. No, look up is not correct. The word look up it should not be there in the first place, because this word looking up is actually creating, again, a kind of, you might say, it's an odd one out in this item list of meanings, pronunciation, spellings. We're all talking about nouns, meanings, pronunciation, spellings. And what we did, we added a verb with this irregular verbs. So we should not be doing that. If we were continuing with nouns, we should have continued with nouns. Meanings, pronunciation, spellings, irregular verbs. We should not have added the verb looking up over here. Now let's talk about this one. The coach told the players they should get a lot of sleep, they should not eat too much, and to do some warm-up exercises. Now this one was attempted in a wrong manner by majority of you. 90% of the students attempted this one incorrectly. It was very simple. If you are continuing with this structure again, they should eat, then you should have continued with the same structure over here, that they should do some warm-up exercises. What you did over here, you tried to break the rhythm of the sentence. The rhythm was they should get, they should not eat. The rhythm was they should, and you break that momentum. You should not be breaking that structure. They should get a lot of sleep, they should not eat too much, and they should do some warm-up exercises. As simple as that, right? Let's talk about this sentence. I think just 2% or 3% of the students attempted this one correctly. Number 3. He was a poor student because he waited until the last minute to study for the exam, completed lab problems in a careless manner, and his motivation was low. Now, majority of you attempted it in this manner and had low motivation. Well, most of you did not write hard with it when you text me the answer. Now notice this. We expressed our sentence with the verbs ending with ed. Waited, completed. We should have also come up with a word over here that should have ended with ed. What we could have done? We could have used the word lacked, L-A-C-K-E-D, and lacked motivation. He waited until the last minute, completed his lab problems in a careless manner, and lacked motivation. Right? Or you could have said, and had low motivation. Because again, when you will be using had, it will be again becoming a past tense. But the preferable one was that you should be using something ended with ed. The last one was attempted by everyone correctly. The production manager was asked to write his report quickly and in an accurate manner. Now, what's the problem with this sentence? Here, you're using an adverb, quickly, and in the next, you might say step of the sentence, you are not using adverb. You are using a noun. So adverb and then switching to noun is incorrect. If you have decided to use adverb, then use adverb over here too. So it would be quickly and accurately instead of quickly and accurate manner. Or if you want to stick to noun, you could have said was asked to write his report in a quick and accurate manner. You can skip ly from both of the words. I hope this would have made the thing more clearer or the idea of faulty parallelism in your writing more clearer. Now, this was more related to the writing on the paper. Now, we also use parallelism when we're making lists on PowerPoint. And this is the same mistake that we commit when we are making our bullet points. What we do is we mix our verbs and nouns and adverbs when we are writing the bullet points on the PowerPoint. I'll give you an example. Now, this is a bullet point slide, objective bullet point slide, right? In which the presenter is saying, this is the first slide of the presenter. And he's saying that this is how I'm going to proceed with the presentation. This is the first slide of the presenter. He says, we defined our purpose. Who is our audience? What should we do? Discuss findings, our conclusions, finally recommendations. What's the problem with this slide? Put it down in the chat box. What's the problem with this slide? Oh yes, rule number 101, you can also say was demotivated. See, what's the problem with this slide? This is the objective slide of the presenter that I taught you that there should be an objective slide. Because this is a PowerPoint slide, we have given our objectives in bullet points, but there is a problem of faulty parallelism in these bullet points. Good. We have a problem of questions in the slide. Some of the bullet points are questions. Some of the bullet points are without question marks. Yes, the message looks chaotic, and it's not making any, you might say, symmetry. It's not making any linkages. Yes, rule number 4. It should be all questions or simple sentences. Please do not use the word sentences when we are using bullet points in PowerPoint. The word should be points or phrases, or you can say clauses or phrases, right? But not sentences, because we never put sentences on this slide. Yes, rule number 77, good. Our audience, our steps, our findings, good, good. Okay, the problem with this slide was that the first 2 bullet points started with the subject, we and who. Then bullet point number 2 and 3 had question marks at the end. Then bullet number 4 and 5, 4, moved over to noun, discuss, or let's say verb. It moved over to verb, discuss. And then it moved over to R again, subject. And then adverb, finally. So did you notice this? We started off with the subject, question, then a verb, We incorporated a verb in the same slide of bullet point. Then we jump towards noun again, or subject, and then we move toward adverb. So this message is not properly interconnected. So when we see this slide on the screen, we get an idea that the presenter has not presented the bullet points in a clearer form. Even if the content is excellently described. Let's rephrase this slide. Excuse me. So if we rephrase this slide, the presenter could have presented the slide in this manner. Define purpose, analyze audience, determine methodology, discuss findings, draw conclusions, make recommendations. Now, I want all of you to tell me what is the formula of bullet points over here in this slide, or the sentence structure, or you might say the phrase structure that the presenter is following. Abdullah Saboor, I love your answer, Abdullah Saboor bete. They are very, very in-depth answers, by the way. But let's not use these words with the audience, because I want to keep them very simple. I want to make them understand the more simpler version bete. But thank you for the contribution, and some very powerful contributions, Abdullah Saboor, you're making. Fine. Let's make it very simple. Define purpose, analyze audience. The presenter is using the verbs in the starting of the bullet point, and is using a noun in the second part of the bullet point. So the formula he's following in these bullet points is verb plus noun, verb plus noun, verb plus noun. Did you notice that? Yes. And this is the correct version of displaying your content to the audience. Make sure that when you are giving your details to the audience, they do not have faulty parallelism in the form of different verb structure, right? So if you're going to make sure that your slide does not have faulty parallelism, again, it's going to become a more powerful version of your transferring of knowledge, right? Or it will show you as a more, you might say, effective speaker. Fine. One more. I hope all of you understood this concept. Any questions? Please raise your hands if you got any questions, because I have, I've activated that tool, and this time I'll be seeing your raised hands. Or you can text me yes ma'am, so that we can proceed further. Shall we proceed further? Everybody got the idea behind this faulty parallelism? Yes, rule number 111, use of verbs plus nouns. Right. So for your final presentation, when you'll be designing your PowerPoint slide, if you are planning to incorporate bullet points, please make sure that you are not falling into the trap of, or you are not making faulty parallelism mistakes. Let's move on to some another don'ts. One more thing that most of the students do when they are designing their bullet points, they think that if you're going to use capital letters, it's going to make more impact. No, I'm sorry. Capital letters, when you're using in the netiquette, in the net environment, or you might say in the digital environment, it's highly non-professional, unethical, and it's just like, as if you are shouting at the other person. Never use all capital letters to emphasize your point of view in a PowerPoint slide, or when you're writing an email, or whenever you are, digitizing your content. Never use all caps letters, all caps lock, right? Or all capital letters, because it's again, and I use this picture deliberately because every time when you'll be writing all caps, this picture would be reminding you that do not use all caps lock. So do not make this mistake when you're designing a PowerPoint slide. Don't use capital letters or all caps lock in your presentation, because it's equal to shouting at the other person. Next is, let's see some of the appropriate font styles, because there was also this question that somebody asked me in this chat box that, ma'am, what is the most appropriate font style and font size when we are designing our PowerPoint? Most appropriate font styles are Arial and Times New Roman, but they are also, because they are considered to be classical styles. So these are the most acceptable ones. But now you have more creative font styles also available. So what you can do is Yes, Abdullah Sabur is asking, ma'am, some fonts work in all caps, so we should not use those fonts. Well, yes, Abdullah Sabur, I just told you that, Vijay, that using all caps lock in whatever medium you're using is highly discouraged because it gives an impression that you are being non-polite, impolite, sorry, you're being impolite, right? So make sure that even if the font size is asking you to use that all caps lock, skip that font style. Then we have a list of inappropriate fonts. And those inappropriate fonts are Comic Sans, because this Comic Sans looks quite immature, childish on the big screen when you're displaying your content. This Edwardian script, although it looks very royal and classical and elegant on the wedding cards, but please, not on the PowerPoint slide, because it becomes really difficult to scan all those, you might say, the intricacies and the details that it has been written with, because it's very difficult to read the E and S, right? And then there's also one more font style known as chiller. This chiller, as its name says, it seems to be quite blank or quite kind of, giving an eerie feeling. So please don't use these kinds of font styles. Plus, there is no one rule for using font style. What you can always do is, you can always just check it out, whichever one is going to look more reasonable, more aesthetic to the eyes, and you can go for that, right? Because there are no fixed rules and regulations for using a particular font style. But when you are in doubt and you have no idea whom you will be presenting to, how the audiences, or what is the audience's reaction going to be, how are they going to, which way they're going to react to your presentation, the best safe version is Arial and Times New Roman, and it is still considered to be the safest one. Okay, let's move on to another slide. Now have a look at this. I've deliberately used this font. Now notice the way that this choose font has been written. It's going to take some ages to read this. And then after this kind of font, all in caps lock again. The first mistake is all in caps lock, all in capital letters. We should not be using this. We should have discarded this idea. Have a look at this. Calibri or Verdana. And Calibri or Verdana, they are more easily readable when you present them to the audience. Again, please skip this idea that why everything is written in caps lock. We have already discussed it. We are not going to go for. Yes, roll number 116, yes, Times New Roman is considered to be an exclusively formal font. I agree with that, Bete, and it is still considered to be formal font, right? But what I'm saying is sometimes you want to be a little bit more creative, right? A little bit more aesthetically pleasing to the audience. There, you can play with different styles, right? But make sure whatever style you're choosing, you are continuing with it for all the other slides. This is very important, right? Okay, Abdullah Sabur is saying that, ma'am, Verdana or Calibri is also not looking very polite. Well, Abdullah Sabur, I just gave you an example, Bete. Again, the choice lies with you. You can, of course, check it out when you are, finalizing your presentation, that whether it's going to look more aesthetically pleasing or more elegant or more classy or not, right, Abdullah Sabur? But the choices are open, Bete. Okay? No one is restricting you. It's just that it should be easily readable. That's rule number 1. Okay. Yes, Abdullah Sabur, I agree. But I just mentioned that please skip that point that, it's all written in caps lock. Skip that point. Okay, then I want to show you the font size. Whenever you're presenting your title, of course, it's a very logical understanding that, your title should be more bold, should be in a more, you might say, in a bigger font size than the content, right? My voice is not clear. Well, am I audible, Hassan?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm clear?
It's there in internet issue, ma'am. But it's clear, ma'am. Voice is clear.
Okay, roll number 73. Okay, it's clear now. Thank you, Abdish. Okay. Excuse me. So have a look at this slide. This is your title. Your font size of the title would be bigger than the content, and the ideal font size is 36 or more than 36. It should not be less than that. Please keep this in mind. It should be 36 or it can be more than 36 but not less than that. And I hope you know where you're going to find these font sizes. Let me just, okay, I hope everybody knows it where you can find these font sizes and font styles in Microsoft Word. Yes or no, isn't it? Right? I hope everybody knows where you find the font sizes and slides. Okay, for those of you who are still texting me that, ma'am, we have no idea, I'll be shifting to, is my Word slide visible? Amar, is my Word slide visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Fine. Okay. Here. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, here you can find.
No, ma'am. आपकी PowerPoint खुली हुई है. It's your PowerPoint is open. We cannot see your word.
खुद ही हो जाएगा.
ये तार हिला के जाएंगे.
ओ तार हिल गई है.
निकल गया तार.
अब तो निकल गया. मैं तो ठीक कर रहा हूँ.
ये सुबह बढ़िया भी देखो.
ओ यार मन.
Whose mic is turned on? Please turn off your mic.
अभी आ जाएगी.
नहीं आती मुझे. रिपीट मुझे नहीं आती.
Okay, Amar, can you see the slide now?
No, ma'am.
Still not?
Yes, no.
Well, I'm receiving messages. Some people are saying, ma'am, we can see them.
No, ma'am, not visible.
मैं लगा.
Hold on, hold on.
Yes, ma'am, it's visible now.
Right. Okay. Now move towards home button, and here you'll be finding a chain of different font styles that you can play with. And as Abdullah said,
ऐसा तो छोड़.
Ma'am, it's roll number 120. It's making noise.
roll number 120. Please turn off your mic, bitte. Okay, so this is the list of font style.
Ma'am, mute all.
Okay, I'll turn them all mute.
मगर मेरी बात कभी नहीं जानता होगी. अब मैं वैसे याद रखूंगी जैसे मैंने अपनी सारी जिंदगी देखा. एक बहादुर जो अपनी हिफाजत के लिए हर मुसीबत झेलने के लिए तैयार रहता है.
तार तूने कहाँ फेंकी उधर ही हो. तेरे लेक्चर
वो सिर्फ मेरे मामा थे. वो रियासत से.
अच्छा जी, can you see the slide on the screen? जी बेटा, ठीक है? Fine. And now let me tell you how you can change the font sizes. You can change the font sizes from here. Please text me, everybody. Can you see the slide? Okay, roll number 131. Roll number 131 has a question that, ma'am, everyone has their own way of, presenting their presentation. So why this forcing of the rules? Well, that's a very good question, Bete. Look, firstly, I'm not forcing you to follow particular rules, right? Secondly, as I mentioned you earlier in one classroom, I think there was one student who questioned me that, ma'am, when I was giving you the lecture on etiquettes, some of the students questioned that, ma'am, why we have to follow a certain set of etiquettes. Well, this is important because, whenever we are living in a society is governed, it's ruled by certain laws and regulations, right? So everything that we talk about, or every, you might say, phenomena that we discuss, or every, you might say, course that we take on, has its, some very basic rules that we should be following. Here, again, depending on the context, depending on the audience, you might get to know that your audience is fun-loving. You might change your presentation style. But if your if your audience is a senior one and also they are serious, they are seniors and they are serious people, then you have to go for something which is universally applicable, which is highly gentlemanly, which is highly, you might say, sophisticated. So I'm not saying that you should be, again, you should be, marginalizing yourself or you should become an odd man out. I'm just saying this, I'm just trying to emphasize on this fact that you can play on your own rules, but make sure that you also have an idea that what society's rules are. I believe in this, that rules are meant to be broken, but then you should be having an idea what those rules are and how far you can break them, right? So, because if you're going to move ahead or if you're going to work on some, you might say, established rules and regulations, then your product has lesser chances of getting rejected, right? That's the only temptation behind it. But if you want to be a rebel, and if you think your rebelliousness can make an impact, that's very important. You're so confident of your rebelliousness, then you should go ahead. But if you are doubtful in your own mind whether you will be able to make an impact with your out-of-the-box presentation, then I'm sorry, it's better to stick to normalcy. It's better to stick to something traditional rather than going against the barriers and failing. Although failing is, again, something which, gives you more experience. It gives you more, you might say, productivity in learning about new things. I also believe in that. But again, the answer to this question is, I hope I've made myself clarified that yes, it's very good to go, it's appropriate, or sometimes it's good to go against the rules. But then you should be knowing the rules first, rules of the room, rules of the society, and then you should be having a lot of confidence in yourself that you will be able to make an impact by breaking those rules, right? And if you talk about font style and font size, we have different font sizes over here. Again, you can use the facility of bold, italics, and underlining also over here if you want to emphasize the things, right? So let's move on to the other slide now. Fine, okay. So let's move on to, yes, so we were talking about the font sizes. The ideal font size for the title will be 36 or more than 36, and the ideal font size for the content will be 28 or more than 28, not less than that, irrespective of the fact whether we are presenting in a conference room or in a classroom, irrespective of that fact. It will not be less than 28. 28 is your benchmark, and you can of course move further, but not backward, right? Let's visit or view this slide. I told you all can use pictures on your slide, but make sure when you're displaying pictures, you are not trying to merge your text on the pictures, because again, it will not be a legible text, right? So this is the wrong version and this is the correct version, right? Do not try to incorporate all of the sentences or phrases on the picture that you're trying to display. Just keep it legible, right? Okay. One more example. We have plethora of images available on Google Images. Your task is to choose some image which is crisp, more polished, more clearer, and more, you might say, trendier, right? Something which is, yes, which is more crisper and something which gives a more fresh look to the audience, right? Have a look at this one. We're describing the car, but the image that we are displaying it's quite childish and immature image, right? And have a look at this one. Fresh perspective, or you might say fresh picture, right? Slide not visible. How can this be possible? Are my slides visible, Amar?
Yes, ma'am, visible.
Roll number
Visible,
25. Roll number 25. I don't understand why you're saying that. Okay, so it should be a more, you might say, a more polished version of a picture. Don't show your audience something which is very, you might say, not clear or not, you might say, aesthetically pleasing. Okay, we have got plenty of images, and I'm going to give you some websites addresses from where you can have good pictures for your presentation. Okay, now let's talk about how data can be presented. Now have a look at this. Roll number 116. Yes, your question is a very good question. Thank you so much for putting up such a very thought-provoking, you might say, idea over here that I need to talk on. Yes, of course, pictures are going to vary according to the audience. Even your content varies according to the audience, bete. Let's not talk about pictures only. Your body language, your content, your pictures, use of images, everything varies according to the audience's qualification and their mental status. If they're highly qualified, you cannot give them something substandard. If they are not that much qualified, you are not going to give them something advanced. You're going to be on a very normal track. You're going to present them things which are understandable to them. Because the idea behind a presentation is to make people understand, not to be superior to them. If anywhere you would be thinking that let me show this image to them, or let me just talk to them on that part, and I'll sound more well educated, or you might say well knowledgeable, please don't think like that. Because the only way you can sound more knowledgeable to others is the way you can convince them. Right? So please don't think that the use of images or the use of inappropriate jargon or inappropriate content would land you more, you might say, acceptances. No. You will land into more rejections. Now look at this. We talked about smartphone data, and we also talked about percentages of people who are using this. I'm sure most of you would be coming across these kind of slides when people are showing their data. But we have more creative way to show our data. Have a look at this. 59% picture of a robot, right? 41%, sorry, Android, right? 41% Apple. Images are speaking for themselves. And just by showing these images, you're going to add your words to them. 59% people use Android, 41% use Apple. What ages operate the phone? Here again, in the form of a data. It becomes more pleasing to the eyes, and of course, the boredom, the monotony that is unfortunately associated with our PowerPoint presentations, it dilutes, it dissolves for some time when you showcase your data in this form, right? Rule number 109. Ma'am, your screen is not visible. I just don't understand why you're saying that. Amar, is my screen visible? I'm still getting complaints of that. Bete, you check your internet connection. Check your internet connection, bete. Rule number 109, check your internet connection. Now let's have a look at another data. For example, you're talking about a table, and you want to describe your data in the form of tables or graphs, let's say, or chart, pie charts, bar charts. You need to understand, or you need to confirm that whether this kind of data would be visible to the audience or not. Yes, beta, rule number 122, you can use smart images of smartphone in vertical form. Yes. Again, it depends on your creativity. How aesthetically pleasing you can make your slide. Now this is the data again. The only problem with this slide is, again, the play on the color. Just notice, if you're going to give your presentation or show your data in this form, it will be more clear to the audience. Might be this is looking very nice to you, the usage of colors. But for the audience, these usage of colors would be a stress to their eyes, right? So keep your slides crisp and clear and polished and very clean. Do not use unnecessary spaces. Okay, one more slide. Now have a look at this. I think we talked about it earlier, that using many different colors in your presentation. Do not try to play with different colors at one time in one slide or in continuation of slides. What you can use is, just as I mentioned earlier, there are some very basic colors that you can go for: blue, green, light purple or dark purple, gray, white, beige, brown. These are all very basic colors that you can use in your presentation. Okay, now I'm about to show you a video. And this video is by Steve Jobs, is of Steve Jobs, and this PowerPoint presentation, it's a PowerPoint presentation, by the way, and this PowerPoint presentation is considered to be, you might say, iconic presentation in the world of PowerPoint presentations. And I think I told you earlier too, we discussed that in the class too, that this presentation of Steve Jobs is the kind of presentation that they use for kind of a training platform for Harvard students. So this is, so just think of the impact, think of, you might say, the powerful energy that this PowerPoint presentation exudes, that people are doing experiments on that, right? So let me show you that slide, that PowerPoint presentation. I want all of you to listen to that PowerPoint presentation, and again, we're going to talk on what is the one best thing you liked about this presentation. Okay, Abdish has questioned me, ma'am, what happens in case a presentation is without images? Well, Abdish, again, it depends on your topic. If you think you can justify your topic without the images, well and good. Again, if you're confident that you will not be requiring any data, any graphs, because, you know, considering the fact that you are a technical person cannot deliver the presentation without data, bete. So this is highly indigestible to me. But if you think that you can find a presentation, or you want to do your presentation without any kind of pictures or images or data, then fine, go ahead. If you think you can still make an impact without it. Well, you can find some presentations without images that are made in emergency. But the presentations that are delivered, you know, when they give deadlines to the people, or when they are delivered after a person has worked for it on, you know, on them for 2 or 3 months, then I think that presentation cannot be done without images or graphics or bar charts or graphs.